Three mere mortals discover their ability to create entire universes with their minds alone. Upon discovering their abilities, these three, gods if you will, join forces to create the Dark and Stormy Nights, a supercharged team of creatives with the aim of helping artists and writers around the world while combating the forces of boredom and mundanity. They are the Dark and Stormy Nights.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dark and Stormy Nights. This is a special interview edition. We are doing author interviews when we can. This is our first and somewhat of a test episode on this. So cut us a little slack. We're working on it. And please give us feedback, maybe even some comments about what questions you would have asked or what you want to know. We'll even get those answers to you if we can. So, but today we are interviewing our own Nova Drake, known as Tyr. She has a book out. You want to tell us a little bit?
A little bit about the book?
Yeah.
I suppose so. The name of the book is The Cost of Justice. It is a dystopian fantasy about a woman who had something tragic happen to her, and because she's in a world that's kind of consumed by corruption and greed, there's really no justice in the system anymore, so she's out to make her own.
In a world consumed by injustice and greed. See, I did it terribly.
Corruption, yeah.
Corruption. See, I should have written that down and tried it that way.
Yeah, maybe so.
The antonym isn't always in or un or anti.
Well, I mean, injustice is...
Eat a dick.
And because he didn't tell you, he's Loki, I'm Odin, and I'm supposed
still
to do
here.
this read-in thing. So we're in episode 29, the interview with Nova Drake.
So last episode we did story, and that was my chapter
And
about the rift. But this week we're gonna. It's not really a break. I mean, we're doing the interview, but we'll come back next week with more story once again. But in the meantime, we would like to make the author interview kind of a regular thing. So I don't know quite how regular, but so I say we jump into it, give it a try. Something new for us. So
Yeah, and I've organized some questions, and hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm just reading them, which I am a little.
Well, I think we'll get more conversational as we go on with it. So,
But we just want to do a test by format and see how it all feels and how.
just
Much you love
relax
us.
here. We won't hurt you.
This is like horrifyingly nerve-wracking to somebody with social anxiety, so thank you both.
Should we just refer to you as Nova for this episode?
Whatever you like. I answer to anything.
All right. Well,
All right, Dick Dastardly.
shall I just jump in?
Right?
Do you write for yourself or your audience?
I write for myself, I would say. Like, I've seen a lot of advice that if you're writing for an audience, you're going to water down everything that you write. It's going to lose its impact, and you'll basically end up so stressed out that you'll never get anything written.
Plus, you'll play it too safe.
Exactly.
I agree.
So
I
I
don't like
think
that.
there's plenty in my book that it's definitely not for everybody. There's a lot of kind of parallels drawn to current day, and you know it definitely has a tone to it. So no, I write for myself. If I think that something needs to be said, or I feel strongly about something, or I mean, most of it's just fantasy. It's stuff that, popped into my head, but there's definitely elements in there that are just things that, I felt like saying. I wrote it for myself. I know that it may meet some controversy from certain, types of audience people, but I mean, it is what it is. Books are supposed to challenge you a little bit, right?
I agree.
I definitely think
Now,
so.
do you feel like you had a certain message to say when you were writing this? Was there, or was it just you kind of felt like going this direction with the story? Like, was there something you had to say that you used the story to tell that thing?
I don't know that it was one thing that I felt that I had to say. I think that there's a lot of things about today and the world that we're currently living in that frustrate me, that sadden me even, and I kind of, I guess I kind of saw it like this is where things are going to go if there aren't huge changes made,
Right.
And so it is kind of, it's an echo.
Sure.
Is basically what the world is. It's an echo of what could happen.
I feel like some of the stuff I've read from your book is more of a mirror.
I know it's just a little bit
Well,
dramatized.
this-
Truthfully, you're not so far off. I mean, it's a dramatized version of just basically what would happen if we stay on this path.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
the setting is dystopia, and that's pretty much the definition of it.
That's where
Right.
we're at right now. Yeah.
This age exaggerated.
Right.
All right. Well, I mean, I know this is a chronicle. You have other books in the series. Is that
I do.
your normal mode of writing, or?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it does seem to be a pattern with me where there's just too much to get into one story. I think it's because when I read, I like something that I can consume quickly, you know? Like anything that's between like 50,000 to 70,000 words are generally where I stay. Not necessarily completely. Like some of my favorite authors write books that are much longer. But in general, yeah, I like that little, like, I can finish a book within a couple of days and move on to the next one. Except when it is a series like that, I like to be able to, like, devour them whole. So I need them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually held off on some authors, waiting for them to complete a series, or, you know.
That's why I haven't bought. That's why I haven't bought George R. R. Martin's books.
Yeah, I'm still
Not
waiting for the
done.
last two.
I'll buy the whole thing as a set, but
I at least wait until there's, like, 2 out so that I can,
Well,
move
with-
right to the next, and then
with
I'm left
George,
hanging.
it's because I don't believe he's going to finish it.
Well, I can't do that with Dresden, though, because there's, like, 15, 17 books?
Yeah, but now Dresden's
Right, but with Dresden, you're
Dresden's are kind of
held.
standalones as well, right? You can read them
Yeah.
and not need the others.
That's true.
Yours are not that way, are they?
Nah, no, there's kind of a
Story unto
cliffhanger at
themselves?
the end. But I do have, like, there's going to be kind of a book 1.5 coming, which is kind of like it's basically a group of short stories written about other characters within the same
Oh, okay.
world.
Oh, that's
Interesting.
interesting.
And they're going to be people that it's going to be some characters that you really haven't met yet, but it'll all come together in book 2.
I dig that. That's kind of neat.
Is it necessary reading for book 2, or just enhancing?
Honestly, no, it won't be required reading, but yeah, if you want to skip from 1 to 2, you can, but it's just some depth to the characters.
So how do you manage work life, as far as, like, having a day job, writing a book, dealing with domestic stuff? Like, how do you schedule all that?
Schedule? What's a schedule?
I mean, do you just find a half hour and write? What do you do?
I mean, I'm not so strict with the time frames. I write a lot, but I write a lot because it's an escape for me. It's the world is stressing me out, and reality is too much to take, and I need to escape into this world. So I mean, it's not hard for me to stop existing in reality and jump into my book. You know what I'm saying?
Well, is
Right.
this daily, weekly, whenever?
I pretty much write daily, at least a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, but that may be a few sentences or a little bit of revision or something like that.
Okay.
And it could be because I store my books in the cloud for the most part. Like, I can just pick up my phone, pull up the app, and then, like, make
I
some
gotta start doing
changes.
Well, how long
Yeah.
do you write on average, like, in a session?
It depends on the day. I mean, I work a full-time job, and then I'm a mom, and then I have this writing thing and the podcast. So some days I can
Which
write.
is more than it sounds.
Oh
Right.
my God, so much work.
Some days I can write for 5-10 minutes, and some days I can write for 6 to 8 hours on end. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I
do.
can't have a set schedule like that because life is just life.
Right, yeah. No, I'm amazed. I mean, and I've had the privilege of seeing her work, and just like I can't possibly have that kind of motivation.
It's
so
hard for
hard.
me. Like, it'll take me a half hour just to get in the
And
mood.
I get discouraged, and some of you guys have probably heard on the show with my writings and everything. I get discouraged because things aren't flowing the right way, or
Well, yeah.
Oh
things
no, I
aren't
get
working.
discouraged too.
And me, I'm like, fuck it, you know.
Right.
And she just keeps pushing, And I mean, sure, she'll ask like once in a while, "How's this sound?" or something like
Mhm.
that. But I'm just amazed at the level of self. I may not feel that way to you, but I can see the discipline.
Well, how long did it
it's
take
not
you
discipline, though, you know?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, all right, fine. I just stomped all over her answer.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, how long did it take you from inception of actually sitting down? Like, you may have kicked it around in your head, made a few notes, but when you actually committed to start writing till actually
Putting out the finished
self-publishing?
book.
Yeah.
Longer than it should have.
I'm not judging.
No,
wanna
I know.
I'll
I
judge
get you.
myself by this.
Here's the thing, is that the conception of this book was created years ago.
Right.
And along with about 10 other works in progress that I'm still working on. So there have been a good period of time where this wasn't the main work in progress. Do you know what I'm saying? So like I know other writers totally frown on this, but at any given time I have multiple works going, and sometimes I'm feeling one and not the other, and I'll jump back and forth because they all have different tones. Like this one's kind of on the darker side. And so it just depends on my mood and where the inspiration is flowing. And so it's really hard for me to answer that question.
But we all want to feel bad about ourselves, so give us a number.
So I can tell you that I finished the first draft of this, I want to say maybe in March or April. And since then, I have rewritten it so many freaking times, I couldn't even tell you.
Put the pen down.
I know. And that's the thing.
I'm
It's
the
like,
worst at that.
you guys always talk about how you need a writing dominatrix to come and tell you to like, get your writing done. I don't. I need somebody to be like, bitch, stop writing and take my keyboard away. It is done. You said it was finished 5 revisions ago.
I witnessed that on this book.
Okay,
I
so you
watched
finished in April.
The book's submitted, and
I
she's
know.
like, I'm just making some revisions. I'm like, it's already submitted. What are you doing?
You said it was done. I know.
You'd think it'd be
It's
done in
terrible.
the
It
age
is
of electronics
terrible.
and the internet.
Right.
But no,
Oh,
no,
no.
you could always pull it back.
Like that's my weakness is that I never feel like something is done.
When would you say you seriously started it, though?
It's been years. But like I said, like this wasn't my main work in progress for a while there.
Well,
so
how
See,
many?
I don't feel like a book is started until the first chapter's done.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
And because I write the first chapter all the time, and it never goes anywhere.
Right,
okay,
right.
so I would say that if you it was
I was going to
several
let her off the hook, but all right.
it was several chapters in before I really considered it like my main work in progress.
Really?
Okay.
Oh yeah, like
So-
maybe a third of the way through.
Wow.
So I would say by the time I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on this one, it was a year maybe.
See, that's not bad. That's
No.
that's pretty standard.
I've been writing mine for
That's
years.
awesome from your point of view.
Right.
I mean, for with all you got on your plate.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Maybe a little bit less,
Like
but right
an
around
actual
there.
author could take a good year. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
aware there are people
and
who
by
knock
that
them
I
out in a
mean
matter of
someone
months or whatever
whose
like that.
only
No, and I
job
wish I
is
could
living
do
off the
that.
word.
But
My problem is that my revision process takes so much.
I mean, you also work a lot of hours. You work on
I
the
do work a
show.
ton
You
of
do a lot of
hours.
work on our website and everything like that. And you still find time to write. I mean, that's amazing. It's because I'm having the hardest time keeping all this organized and writing and everything like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's
it's not easy.
It's good at making me feel bad about myself.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't
like,
have to do that.
You know, yeah.
Bit like Facebook that way. Or
well, I'm like,
Instagram.
I've got so much on my plate, and then I look at her, and she's got more on her plate, and she's doing it, and I'm like, like,
No, but truthfully, like you're seeing like the past few months of me, getting this book out. But I mean, like everybody else, I have periods of time where nothing is coming, and I just
Right.
can't write for weeks. It
All right.
happens to all of
Well,
us.
you brought up a couple other things in your answer. One of them, I was going to wait to the end, but how many works in progress do you have?
Several, 8 to 10, maybe.
That you plan on following up on?
wow, that's even more than I have.
Nah, I would probably follow up on most. Good lord.
That's
I don't
pretty
know.
creative. Well,
Well, this
there's
begs
that many.
another one, though.
One or two will get knocked off. I'm sure I'll never finish them.
How do you
That's
keep
not bad.
organized?
I am not
Computers.
organized.
Yeah, I use multiple computers and not
Right.
organized.
No, that's why the cloud program comes in handy.
Yeah,
so that
see,
you
I have to
have
get in the cloud thing.
Yeah, I use files in subfiles
Oh my
of
gosh.
subfiles.
Before I had that, I used to do handwritten. Like I'd be
Oh,
somewhere and like start writing, and then I'd have to mesh it back into the book. I had notes everywhere.
So-
I lost entire sections. It
Oh
was
my
so
god!
bad.
I had a computer crash on me, and it was the only place I had a few copies of my stories, and just lost them all.
That happened to me as
Completely
well.
done.
I had a book that was at least a third of the way through, maybe half, and it was really interesting. It was like an afterlife kind of book,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's gone. I'll never pick that
So
back up. It's
by
gone.
cloud, you mean like what, Google Drive or something like that?
Yeah, like I have some stuff on Google Drive, and then I have just like it's not Word, but it's a Word compatible
Sure.
program.
Yeah,
that
that's what I
has
use.
Cloud space.
So, are there any other like apps or anything like that you find valuable for writers?
Apps.
Well,
for
yeah, so
writing
I-
specifically.
Well, like I was told, Scrivener is like a good one or something like that, but
I
I
do
don't
use
use any
Scrivener.
of that.
What is
And
that, Script Nerd?
Scrivener.
Oh no,
Scrivener.
I don't use Scrivener. I was thinking of a different one.
Um,
No, I don't. I've heard that as well. I've never tried it. I'm not a technology person.
I mean, I am, but I don't use a lot of the, like, I'm not, I know a lot of writers are like, oh, I live and die by this, and I'm like, I don't even know how it works.
Use Grammarly.
So, yeah, see, I don't even know what that is or how you
Yeah,
use it.
what
or
is that?
anything like
Grammarly,
that.
it's a grammar checker.
So, okay, yeah,
As
I
opposed
could
to
probably use
one
that
in
'cause
Word?
my grammar stinks.
Oh, well, I mean, it's not only checking your spelling, it's checking like your sentence structure, and it'll flag you for all sorts of things.
I still don't know what a passive voice is. I really don't. It's
not-
always yelling.
Yeah, it's hard to explain.
And
But-
then she crossed the bridge.
No, the red squiggly line. I
It's
take it as
not
yelling.
yelling.
It offends me when I see it on the page. Like, stop complaining. It angers me. I don't know about
Well,
you,
it's not
but I
like
hate
an
it.
active thing. But the thing is that everybody jumps on you for passive voice, and yet I feel like it's necessary
It
sometimes.
just sounds like the way people talk.
I know, and it happens a lot in some of my stories. And you know what? It is what it is.
Well, speaking of which, then, are there any writing rules that you actually like appreciate?
What?
Writing rules.
Yeah,
What's
because
it,
I mean, I
Oxford
think look,
comma?
we all know that the writing rules are bullshit when they need to be bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm the wrong person to ask because I think all rules are bullshit.
But I mean, you
I
know,
am not a rule
are you
follower.
about the Oxford comma or?
I like an Oxford comma.
I'm a fan too, personally.
I mean, it's okay. I don't need it to read a book though.
I use it. I don't need it to read a book either.
Right.
I am absolutely not a grammar Nazi. I do try to get it right. I do run everything I write through Grammarly, and still you will miss something because every
Right.
writer knows that you can do 8 million
Oh
revisions,
God, I know.
send it through an editor, send it through beta readers, send it through Grammarly, and still something will be
I don't
wrong.
think I've
It
ever
is
read a
what it
perfect
is.
book. I don't
I don't
I've-
think that I've either.
I think
Well, I'm sure I have.
I think
I
in
read
almost
so many
everything I caught
books.
something.
There's
you
something.
know?
What is a perfect book?
That's fine.
Well, no,
It is what
I
it
mean
is.
grammar wise, I've never, because I think that subject wise it's subjective, but grammar wise or whatever, somebody misses a period or a comma or the sentence is
Or a typo.
off or there's a
typo is what I
typo
see
or
more.
I mean I saw
There's
a
books where I
sentence-
notice it, and ones where I don't.
and I don't do Kindle. I read all my books paper,
Right.
and even in like classically published books, I found a sentence that was almost a page long.
Well, you also read older
Single
books
sentence.
where the
Really?
rules
Yeah.
actually were looser. You'd think
So-
they'd be stricter, but they actually were looser back then.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I do like older books, and I also like the ridiculously long words that most people don't like.
I'm good with long sentences. I know a lot of people want short, concise sentences, and to me, I mean, I have no problem following a book that has
As
long
long as you could follow
sentences.
thought, there's no
Yeah.
wrong.
As long as I can stay immersed through that sentence, because
Right.
immersion is everything to me. in
I
a
don't know.
story.
There's so many rules, and there's so many people trying to tell you what to do, and I think that make sure it's cohesive, get it right. If you have an interesting story to tell it.
Yeah, Stephen King told me to know the rules and then forget them.
Yeah. I
and-
mean, that's the thing is you should know what the rules are. You should know grammar, and then when it comes time to ignore it, do it.
By the way, I didn't mean me specifically. I said this online.
Um,
But I agree with that. It's like know them, but
Sure.
they don't always apply.
They don't always apply. And all those people who say never do this and never do that, no, that's the first thing I'm going to ignore.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what to do.
Stephen King's probably more successful
That's my
than
biggest rule. I think
Like,
within writing and outside of writing and everything in life, that is my biggest rule. Don't tell me what to do.
you. Right.
Well, what do you think makes an interesting story?
Characters, tone. I mean, I'm not one of those people who's seeking out grammar and passive voice and like all that
Yeah.
stupid crap. I'm thinking likable characters and and something interesting to say.
That's the thing. If you're picking apart, like if you're worried about the grammar and everything, and you're picking all that apart,
Right?
I
Are you
can't-
really paying attention to the
You're not
story?
enjoying yourself. You're not
Yeah.
immersing yourself. How can you possibly know what the story is about and if you like it, if you're so busy picking apart the
I
grammar?
mean, when I'm reading a story, I'm reading it as a reader. That is
Right.
something that I have said before. Because I do some beta reading and I do book reviews. So when I'm doing a review, I'm making sure that I'm not sitting there trying to pick apart grammar. I'm not an editor. I'm not a beta reader. I am simply a reader. Is this story interesting?
Right.
Is it something that held me? Did I like the characters? And did I like the villains or whatever their story is? And that is what's important to me. When I'm reviewing a book, I understand that these people didn't ask me to pick it apart. They're just looking to
Right.
tell their story, and I let them tell their story because that's what we're all here for.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, what do you think is one of the most surprising things you've learned in writing your book? in any of the research or about yourself or?
That's a difficult question. I have learned that I hate writing any kind of futuristic technology in city. I'm not a huge fan of writing fight scenes, which is ironic because apparently I like to torture myself with this book.
So you hate all the things I enjoy.
Yeah. My character is, well, in the blurb, which honestly, that was probably the worst part of writing the book. And the blurb, I basically referred to her as a professional pain in the ass because that was the best way that I could think to describe her. And that is literally what she's been to me through the whole story. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I've learned some things that I struggle with writing. And I've sought out advice on how to make it come across better. And we'll see if I did a good job when it's actually read and reviewed, I suppose.
What about the setting specifically? It was difficult.
The setting in general throughout the first book is kind of a rundown dystopian scene.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is an elite city, which is only kind of referenced in the first book, but it will appear more in the second book, which is where the technology comes in. And don't get me wrong, like growing up, I was a huge Star Trek nerd,
Sure.
like huge. So I have some like concept of futuristic technology and culture and things like that. But we're really looking at something that's still like consumed by greed at this point, where money is what runs the world for
Right.
her. So I don't know. Like I'm really trying to think of superficial things that have built in technology. This isn't like, hey, we learned how to feed everybody. They're like,
everyday tech.
I'm 50 and I still look 20. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like those are the things that the elite in this world would care about. Vanity and greed, So I'm thinking like cruise ships that are actually in the air. Like the
So for yours, it sounds like more importantly was the sociological end of it, of
Like,
technology.
Yeah, where would the tech go if the focus was
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an interesting
like
experiment
the
because
rich way of life. You know what I'm saying?
right, because had it had the world evolved differently, the tech would be completely different. So that's
Right. So while in like Star Trek type worlds, there's a lot of technology that's extremely helpful and
Right.
Regarding like well-being and exploration.
But a whole different mindset.
Right, exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
This is interesting, but I think we need to stop for a break real quick.
You need a break? Okay. We'll be back in a moment with more from Tyr, Nova Drake Writer.
Hey dames and knights, Loki requires attention to survive. We feed him your likes and comments, so go show some love at the Dark and Stormy K1 on Twitter, thedarkandstormyknights.home.blog, or you can find us at Podbean, iTunes, or Google Play Music.
Love me.
Love me.
Love.
Okay, so we are back, and I'm going to just jump right in with this question.
Mm-hmm.
Pantser or plotter?
Hybrid.
Wait, what?
So, plotters, of course,
Uh-huh.
plot their story. That's me. I plot my story to the ridiculous nth degree.
Okay, so these are writing styles?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And a pantser basically drops trow and goes in.
Oh. See, I was hearing it with a C. Okay.
You just kind of like start writing and see where it goes.
So riffing.
Right.
There are people who are against one or the other at any given time. I was told you can't possibly be surprised by the story if you know everything that's happening, and neither can your reader. And I disagree with that
I disagree
wholeheartedly.
I have my answer, but it's not my episode. So.
I feel like pantsing completely would lead me to a lot of plot holes.
Yes.
And
dead ends.
That's what I'm saying. There's
Yeah.
ups and downs to each.
No, so I have to do kind of somewhere in between. I write a basic skeleton, a very bare bones structure
Mm-hmm.
of where I want the story to start, and then I kind of write this is the status quo. This is what my character wants, and then this is like what's keeping them from it, and so I write like the very basic structure. What?
That's a story circle that you hate so much. You just described the first 3 steps of the
Yep.
story
Yeah,
circle.
shut up. I know.
You can't help it.
I can still hate the story circle and understand that it's useful. So I write the basic skeleton, and then from there, the rest of it just is what it is.
Okay.
The problem is that I can't even write that story circle until I've started writing a little bit of the story.
I think everybody probably uses a story circle and doesn't realize
right.
it.
I agree with you.
You're just, it is intuitive the way a story works. A good story, anyways.
Right. And I hate it, but it is what it is. You need to know that.
Would I be wrong to say that you hate it because it robs the mystery of it?
Yes, it is.
But is
I
it-
hate that you can boil every story down to this same
It's
circle.
no different than horoscopes.
What?
It's no different than horoscopes.
Generally
it's vague
true for
enough
12
to where
people?
it's vague enough to where it fits.
That's fair enough.
You know?
Yeah, no, I hate the whole concept of it, but it is a useful tool for any writer. So yeah, I mean, but the story circle can't be created for me until my initial concept has actually started to been
Oh,
right,
sure.
to
The
be
kernel.
written.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, a hybrid then.
exactly.
How do you get your ideas?
Can anybody answer that?
Drugs.
Seriously? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I
kidding.
mean, like, is it just like wish fulfillment, empowerment? Is it
it's
a
all
dream?
different. Usually it's just something random and completely like unrelated to anything will just spark this like concept, a prompt, almost in my head.
Okay.
And from there I just, type it out, and sometimes something takes off from it and sometimes nothing does, or sometimes whatever took off from it was crap and I ditched it, but sometimes something just
So
keeps
just
going.
inspiration.
Yeah, basically.
Do you find the online like exercises and prompts and stuff like that helpful to like think like that or anything? Like I don't use online prompts, but I know a lot
I've
of people who do.
I've seen one or two that are kind of interesting that I could maybe work something about it into a story, but I don't know that I could create. I don't know. I think it would be a fun episode on Dark and Stormy for us to maybe take a few random prompts and be like, hey, let's try to make a
Yeah.
quick short
I'd
story
just be
out of
afraid
this.
I'd be derivative in some
I
fashion.
Yeah.
see. I used to throw out like bad story prompt ideas, and somebody told me to stop doing it because
That
they're
could
like,
become good.
no, yeah, they were like, these are gems. What are you talking about bad? And I'm like, and I thought they were terrible, but I was like, by all means, use them.
No, I know. Some of them are pretty great. I remember those.
See, and I'm like, I'll never use this. And then they started talking up. I'm like, oh, that is good.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I'm like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't throw them all away.
What traps do you find limit your ability to write? Like put a monkey wrench in your process, or limit the time you have, or
What traps?
yeah, just either psychological
Stress?
or yeah,
I mean,
bad habits, doubts. Any number of things.
I feel
that
like
stop
every
you.
writer goes through doubts. I mean, you go through this process where you're writing your first draft, and if you feel like it's coming out as something like amazing your first time through, and then you go back and you kind of like try to read to catch up, and you're like, what the frick was I so excited about? Like I feel like every writer kind of has that, and then you just hope that somewhere along the editing process you're coming up with a better revision. Those people who say that they can write one draft and like just put it out with a little bit of like spell check, I think that's far beyond my capability because I just can't even conceive of being able to be happy with what I've come up with after one round through. For me, it's something where every writer pretty much I think doubts themselves at some point.
I think I hear you. So none. You're a machine. Okay.
No, that's not what I was saying.
Have you watched or read something that made you change your style? That like you're like, oh, that's so good. Why can't I do it like that? Or that's a great mechanic. Or
Or I would even say the reverse of it, where you watched or read something that's
Or
too much
entropy.
like your story, and you're like, damn it, I got to
That
change.
I can see. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Actually, I had come up with a fantastic idea for an evil character, and then you guys immediately told me it had already been done.
Oh, was that?
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, there's been once or twice where I came up with something like that,
Well,
and
if you
then I was
listen
like,
to
"Damn it!
us-
Now I can't do it."
yeah, it's gonna be Simpsons did it.
gonna
It's gonna be
be
the
what?
South Park,
Well-
the South Park episode making fun of how Simpsons has been around so long that any
It's
idea
done
you can think
everything.
of, they've already done as an episode.
Yeah.
'Cause there's 7.5 billion.
But that's the thing, though,
people.
is you can't always pay attention if somebody else did it, or do pay attention and do it better or different
right.
enough.
Just do
you
it
know?
different, do it better.
Right.
And if it's a general thing, sure. But if it's something kind of specific, and you're like, okay, somebody's already done that, yeah, that's a little harder.
so
So yeah, something like that will steer me away. But for the most part, I mean, I can invite. That's the thing about reading all this different work, because I read a lot. That's why you pick your favorite authors, is because you like their tone, or you like the fact that it's different, or the way that they
Right.
explain things, or the way that they describe things, or whatever it is. Like I appreciate that their tone is different, and so I want mine to be unique as well.
sure. Okay.
Do you have difficulty in writing in a voice not your own?
Meaning?
Different racial, gender orientation.
Um, this is going to end up being the tears and asshole episode. No, I want to see diversity in everything. I feel like that reading books with diversity has helped me to understand people who are coming from other viewpoints and stuff like that. That said, I mean, I feel like you're touching on the own voices thing here.
I've only just recently heard about this. I mean,
so here's my thing about this. Do I think that own voices authors should be given preference within the industry? Yes. I think that there is something important to be said that, and when it's coming from an authentic voice, that is a good thing. However, I don't like some of the trends that I've been seeing with the own voices thing. I don't like that we try to force authors to out themselves in whatever way, you know, to appease agents, publishers, audience, whoever it is. I don't feel like a writer owes anybody the explanation of who they are, what race they are, who they choose to sleep with, what kind of disorders they have, what kind of anxiety, depression, emotional issues. That's for them and their therapist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
no, I do.
this is not something an author owes you. And I'm sorry, but unless an author is advertising themselves as an own voices author, you don't have the right to ask. As somebody who...
Does that go in a cover somewhere?
Own voices?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it could
so
go
like
in their
owned
author
approved?
blurb, though. If they
guessing.
represent themselves in this way to an author or an agent, to an agent or a publisher or an audience, that's cool. By all means, yes, that should be given special consideration because we do need to take authenticity into account. However, do I think that they're the only people who can tell a story? No. I think that somebody who's a relative or a wife or anybody, best friends with somebody who has
Well, yeah, we
a disorder or
live
this
with,
this
people around
situation
us.
or whatever, you know, that person can't necessarily tell their story, but their author, best friend, husband, wife, sister, whatever can.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like those stories aren't, I don't know. For me, getting representation out there matters. As somebody who actually does fall into several different own voices categories, but is not willing to put my personal information out there to everybody just to act like I have a reason to say what I say. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't
Well, it's
choose to validate myself in that way. And yes, I think that it's important that people do. Good for you. That's awesome. But I don't feel like I should owe anybody that information about me.
I feel like to a point, I understand wanting to read something maybe from somebody like yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
like, okay, you know,
the
might-
authenticity
I
might
think that
well,
this-
you know,
in
okay,
writing.
so say you're a you know, I don't know, gay Hispanic person or something like that, that
Mhm.
you may want to read something from a gay Hispanic author or something like that, and that's fine.
Sure.
But nobody owes you that information about themselves. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost weird to a point that it has become that to me.
Here's my problem.
Is that I don't owe you who I am.
Exactly. And I think that own voices started out as something that was absolutely a good thing. But I feel like it's been weaponized
I think
somewhat.
it is a good thing at its core, but yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
And I have started to see agents and publishers using this as a reason to force people into uncomfortable situations, making them reveal things about themselves that they
Right.
weren't willing to reveal, forcing them out of closets, and then further using it as basically a reason for biphobia or whatever.
Or marketing.
Like, I mean, it is exploited to some point, but I mean, and I'm sure there are definitely tons of people out there who are using it well and to do good.
right.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing on own voices. What I am saying is that as somebody who even feels that certain parts of myself are not well represented out in the mainstream, I'd rather see representation done right than necessarily say that it has to come from an authentic voice.
Well, my question actually wasn't about the cultural aspect, but about actually writing. Do you find it difficult to
I
put yourself
write-
in other people's shoes and see through other lenses?
No, but if I did, okay, no, don't get me wrong. I don't write from viewpoints that I don't feel I have an understanding of. I wouldn't write from a viewpoint of somebody who's probably severely disabled because I don't have a strong grip on that. And if I were to write something like that, I think that I would do tons of research, talk with people who are in those kinds of situations, or like
Right.
make sure that I'm getting it right if I was going to do it. But I mean, for the most part, I don't touch on things that are like so far out of my wheelhouse. That said, I do write from other points of view. I write, some somewhat diverse characters. I think they come from different backgrounds and different, situations, and I don't want to write a book that has nothing but one type of character in
That's
it.
it.
That's
How do you
not the
write
way
a
the world
realistic-
works.
How do you write a realistic world without writing from different
This
viewpoints?
is what I'm thinking. Like, if all the characters had to be like me personally,
Right.
it'd be a boring book.
Right. Yeah, and I rarely write a book with a singular main character. All my stories have multiple leading roles,
Mhm.
and they tend to be a diverse group of individuals. So it's like, could you imagine how boring my story would be if all of them had to be like me?
And
I
I'm going to out
agree.
myself right here, right now. I am not a wizard. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, okay, I'm an own voices space alien.
Mhm.
So just so you know.
Okay. Well, that's nice of you to share with us. But I mean, yeah. My thing is that it's yes, it's a good thing that these own voices authors are out there putting out an authentic story. That's amazing. You're great. I'm not going to do it.
I just don't think they should be forced to if they don't want to.
That's my point. Is if you are willing to represent yourself in that way, that is excellent. Do I think that your story should be given a better look because it's authentic? Absolutely. Do I think that I owe you who I sleep with, or what kind of
Right.
issues I have, or what my race
It's
is?
just I had seen
I don't think that I do.
I had seen an agent saying something about like only accepting manuscripts from, if you're writing about gay character, it has to be on voices or anything like
Mhm.
that. And I'm like,
Now, as a protagonist, I would imagine.
well, none of that matters. I don't owe you who I am as a person. Was the story good or not?
That's my point. Is like, why does your author have to out themselves to you? Why
Right.
the frick do they owe you that? You know what I'm saying?
Right? Was it believable to you?
But
You
in
know?
the day
Right.
of self-publishing, a lot of this is moot. I mean, this is only if you're dealing with large
It
publishers.
is, and honestly, I don't choose to deal with publishers and agents personally. But
Unless
this
they
is-
call.
But this is an issue that other people deal with, and
Please call.
I don't like that. That I've read stories about people who are basically forced out of the closet, forced to confront something about themselves, and then once they did, and they went through that uncomfortable stage, they were still basically dismissed as
Right.
not good enough.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, that's the thing.
no,
Why
I got
would
a
I go
problem
through all
with
that
it.
pain and heartache and everything like that for it to not pan out in the end, anyways?
Yeah, I
Who are
mean,
you
one
as
of
a
the
person?
st-
None
I
of your
think that
business.
I actually read 2 stories about it, where the publisher or the agent basically forced somebody out of the closet to admit that they were gay, but the fact that they were in a straight relationship, no, not gay, they were bi, but the fact that they were in a straight relationship meant that they were not gay enough to be writing that character, and so they were still dismissed even after they were.
I read one about an individual who's married to a handicapped person, wrote a story about being handicapped, and they were dismissed for not themselves being handicapped
Yeah.
when their wife was.
Right.
So,
That's messed up, because I think that as long as you, as an author, attempt to do the research to the best of your ability, and I'm not saying that you did a super bang-up job, to the best of your ability as an author, you've certainly tried. You've given
I
the
think
effort.
that's the point, is do the best that you can, do your research, talk to these people,
Right.
get their voice, and then give them one. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing, is you as long as you're not using the character as a prop, but you're actually giving them
Yes,
a voice.
be authentic about it, and that's my thing.
I don't see a
Is
problem.
there's a lot of characters out there that are actually, reflect a part of me. Let's say, I don't know how to really word that, but like I see, like they have a characteristic of some sort of mine, and I see it represented wrong, and I'm just like, I wish more people would put this out there the right way. It's more important to me that it gets out there correctly than
that-
who said it.
that said, our own experience with being any particular thing isn't the experience or the gatekeeper
Mhm.
of experiences as that thing. Just because your experience of being, this race or this sexuality, or what have
other
you, does not mean that everybody's experience will be
Exactly.
that.
That's the other thing that I notice is there's a lot of people within certain groups who are like, well, this would never happen, and this is like I am whatever, and this would never happen. Except it does happen. It happens to other people.
Right.
Just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean that nobody in your same situation hasn't had that happen. You know
Right.
what I'm
Right. Yeah.
saying?
Exactly.
So
I mean, it is
our
fiction.
experiences are
Right.
all different, and I think that a lot of different people can get a lot of different perspectives, and sometimes I'd just rather see accurate representation than worry about where it came from.
Sure.
All right, another issue I hear brought up, but I find rather strange. Do you believe in writer's block? Was there doubt? Do people
I've
actually
seen it.
think that that doesn't exist?
I've seen a lot of people say that it doesn't exist, and my take on writer's block is that it comes from different places. I think that there's a lot of different reasons for writer's block, and I think that depending on what is causing your block, there's different things that can help you through it. I think that just everyday stress can be a cause for writer's block. Too much going on, not being able to calm your mind down.
Yes.
That's definitely something that has happened to me. Like, I can't get on a single train of thought. And in those cases, white noise and things like that will help me. And in other situations, it's, anxiety or depression or something like that getting to you can just completely crush any kind of creativity that you have, So I think that different things causing your writer's block all has a different solution.
Oh yeah, stress shuts me down. Like
Yeah.
when I'm stressed out, I can't work right.
For me, it's mostly I've ridden myself in a corner and need to go back.
Yeah, sometimes it's admitting that you messed
Yeah,
up.
I mean,
yeah.
if it's the story itself, for me, that's the easiest fix. Go back and write from a different perspective.
Yeah, but then you got to admit that all that wasted time and
Yeah.
just
You
effort.
do.
Hey man, I heard I was listening to a writer the one day on a podcast, and they were talking about how they had written like 60,000 words or whatever,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
30,000 of it was wrong. That they had to go 30,000 words back and start over. So, but that's a lot. That's
I mean,
a lot
you
of
do
invested
cut like a
time,
third
you
in
know?
editing, I hear.
But they had to start over from 30,000 words back. It wasn't like just editing.
That is pretty brutal.
They wrote themselves into a corner and started there.
What age group do you target your writing for? YA or...
No, not YA. my books are definitely adult. New adult-ish.
Okay, so somewhere in that transitional...
Like, I'd say early 20s.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel like older people would probably enjoy them too.
Now, is that
Adult.
the age you tend to write your protagonist?
Yeah. New adultish, yeah.
Are you trapped in that age in your head?
No, I'm a little younger in my head, I think. I have the sense of humor of like a 16-year-old boy, I think.
All right. Well, what quirk or tradition might you have that helps you write or get in the mood to write?
What?
Quirks, traditions. Like for me, I love Earl Grey tea. It makes me feel smart. It's stupid, but it does. It totally gets me in that mood.
Well, I guess when I'm writing, I'm either drinking coffee or whiskey.
Okay. Well, you were talking about white noise.
Yeah, I will. If I'm having problems like focusing, yes, white noise, storms, waterfalls, things like that.
All right.
And then I often burn my incense. I don't know why. That helps
Any
distress
particular
me.
flavor?
The neg champa or whatever it is. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's pretty standard incense.
I hate that one.
All right,
It's so
well-
gross.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
it's
god,
disgusting.
I love it.
I-
I don't know why, but it de-stresses me. It
I
helps
think
my anxiety.
I like orange clove.
That is
Oh, that
pleasant.
does
and
sound
keeps the
good.
mosquitoes away if you're
I'll
right
have
And
outside.
I had one with vanilla in it too once, and that was really nice.
I'll have to try the orange clove.
All right. Well, I think we should break and come right back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so the Dark and Stormy Nights is now part of the Big Vasir Media family. Tyr, you want to tell us what Big Vasir Media is?
Sure. Big Vasir Media is basically a network of indie creators. It's a place that you can go to find podcasts and authors and YouTubers, and it's just a group of creators that kind of are working together to get their work out there.
So you should contact us, of course. Let us
Mhm.
know if you want to join our network, and we're happy to work with new people. We want to get all the indie family we can get, right?
Absolutely. You can go to vegvasirmedia.com to find out more information about ways to join the network, to network with Dark and Stormy Nights. Or if you are an author and have a book that you would like reviewed, you can go there and go to the book review submissions page and post your book for everybody to see, and anybody can read it and review it. And if the Dark and Stormy Nights select your book to review, you'll have a chance to have your book posted on their blog and then posted right on the web on the podcast as well.
And from what I understand, there's even a way for them to just support us if they wish, right? So they can go there, and if they just love the idea of an indie community and
Absolutely. If they want to support the indie community, there are ways to go through Patreon and also get additional exposure at the same time.
Sounds like a great idea to me.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thanks. Go. And we're back.
Yes. Interview with Nova Drake, also known as Tyr.
Okay, so you said you had more questions for her.
Sure. First of all, what inspired the pseudonym, pen name?
My name? I'm a big nerd. That's what inspired the name. Nova Drake, Stars and Dragons.
Okay. That.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Now
it
you
doesn't
need a
all have to be
tattoo or
deep.
something like that of an astronaut riding a dragon.
I was thinking a space dragon.
Or a
right?
dragon coming out of a star,
Celestial
made
dragon.
of fire or something.
Not bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad. All good.
Be shining light or something. I don't know. If you couldn't write, what other artistic endeavor would you do?
Oh God, I don't know. I suck at art.
I do pole dancing.
Wish
I mean,
that I
poetry
could.
or painting or.
I've dabbled in poetry. Nothing especially great. Most of my poetry's kind of angry.
Interpretive dance.
You bitch. You ruined my life.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like to dance. I'm just overall kind of lazy. So let's be honest.
Aren't we all?
That's not going to happen.
Well, it is a desk chair job.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Artistic coffee making.
Ooh, there we go. Maybe so.
Okay.
Artistic coffee drinking. Is that an option?
Artisanal coffee drinking, yes. Connoisseuring,
Yes,
You mean like wine tasting?
but coffees.
exactly.
Okay.
I could do that. I could do the
Delicious
shit out of
coffees.
that.
Right.
Now, what was your favorite childhood book that you can remember?
As a small child, I would say it's probably Alice in Wonderland.
What is a small child in your head?
Oh God, I don't know.
About 3 apples high?
7 or 8. I wasn't a Smurf.
Oh, well, that's old enough to have cognitive memory. That's a valid answer.
Alice in Wonderland is an amazing story.
Such a good story. I've read that book so many times.
Well, what book would you say impacted you the most, intellectually or emotionally? In some way, just really had an effect on you, like, damn.
Overall, oh my God. Do you know how many books I read? I can't even answer that question.
Really?
No.
Alright.
Oh my God. I couldn't even tell you how many I read every single day.
None of them stand out, though, as
Yeah,
like
I would
a
have trouble with the question,
a-
too.
Like we're
tear
talking
jerker or something
hundreds
that like
of
changed.
books. Hundreds. Tearjerkers? Yeah, I cry at a lot of them.
The way like Life of
Bastards.
Pi changed the hearts of superficial people everywhere.
That was more of a visual thing. I think it had to be
That's why I
a
said
movie.
superficial. It was all about the visuals. It's like, oh, that's life changing. I'm a Buddhist now.
I don't know. I don't know that I could name one. There's several authors that I've felt were, extraordinary, but I really try to read like lighter things. I read as an escape, so I really, aim for something that's going to make me laugh and take me out of the real world and honestly like something that's super profound and oh my God, what is that writer? That male writer, he writes like romance stories. The Best of Me. What's that writer?
We would not know.
Oh, come on, you guys know.
Sounds like Swill.
Everybody knows.
No, we share the same brain. We've already realized this.
Do people die
It's
in
been
it?
declared.
Yes,
Like
people die in
violently?
it. No, not violently.
Yeah, not my
Oh my
not my
God,
bag.
it's such a famous writer, and like somebody had to make me read this book
So
So
there-
no explosions or
Because-
nudity.
No robots?
because it's a tearjerker, and I cried my eyes out. But I generally try to avoid.
Every time I hear the word tearjerker, by the way, I think of what's American Dad, because that was the what's the alien's
Nicholas
name?
Sparks.
Oh, dear
Oh,
God.
yeah.
Is that like the Space Between Us or one of those?
The Fault in
Oh
Our
my
Stars. Is it the same guys?
No,
does
that's
that?
a different. That's John
Oh, okay.
Green.
No, they're all the same.
No, so yeah, like no, those kinds of books where like I'm just gonna end up bawling my eyes out. I avoid them. So
So it's better they don't touch you.
yeah,
Just
it's
leave me alone. Take me,
I
take
want
me to
my
dragons.
I want my easy, superficial reads. Make me laugh, make me cry over some sweet, sappy thing, and I'm good.
Well, before writing became a thing, what other childhood dreams did you have? Being a fire person or?
No. I don't know. I've been a huge reader since I was a child, but I would say my nerdy ass was wanting to explore space, dig up dinosaurs, be Indiana Jones, explore the ocean. I wanted to be, an archaeologist and
Right,
a marine biologist and a little bit of everything. And isn't that kind of what gets us into writing? Is that's how you experience
Yeah.
everything?
You want to be an explorer, so you decided to write the worlds to explore.
Right. I was ready to join Starfleet.
If you would have
yeah.
only realized that it would have been easier to become an archaeologist or an astronaut than to be a writer.
Okay. What age were you when you first thought of being a writer? You're like, yeah, I'd like to do that as an adult.
I wrote in high school. My problem is that when I was young, I didn't have the lack of give a shit that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way. That's a technical term.
So you were getting in your own way, like you couldn't believe that you could do it, or
No, it's not so much that. It's that, like, I would write for school assignments, and writing was something that I really enjoyed for a while. But my confidence as a writer kind of depended on my teacher's opinions,
Right.
which opinions are very personal things. So one year I would write, and my teacher would love my work. Then the next year I would write, and the teacher would send it back, like, all marked up, and, you know. And I actually did major in writing for, like, half a minute in college, and I had this teacher who would argue everything I wrote. Mind you, this wasn't making grammar mistakes. This wasn't, issues with the story itself. This was write an opinion piece on this, and then she would argue my opinion through the whole story.
God.
And I'm like, and I would just get back paper after paper.
But
'cause
your
I think-
opinion's wrong.
Yes, exactly.
There's so
And
many
I
bad
think
teachers.
that
There
Yeah.
have been a handful of good ones, but my
Well,
God, there are
the-
so
I
many
think
bad
that
ones.
what this woman wanted was to run a debate club.
Uh-huh.
Because, like, that's all she did, was she would argue everything that you wrote. And I think that that's what turned me off of writing for a while.
But what turned you on first, before she just pissed all over your parade?
What turned me on first?
No, like at what age were you?
To writing.
Like you were like, you had to see Stephen King out there and be like, okay, that's a career. Like, at what point were you like, maybe I could do it?
See, I think
Not
for
saying
us-
like you actually believed it, but you were like, I'd like to do
Our
that.
generation, we were raised to think that was like a rock star thing, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
I think
that
so
that
too,
didn't
because
happen
it
to
didn't occur to
anybody.
me. It didn't occur to me that it was an option to truly write and put my work out there until I was older. Seeing stories about Stephen King and J.K. Rowling being rejected hundreds of times before anybody took their story, that was not something that made me wanted to pursue the
Well, I wish I even thought about the
So
idea
you were
that it
too
might be
self-aware.
perseverance, though.
like, I don't want to be an asshole, but, like, and I truly don't mean this as anything bad, but I think that at the point when I read Twilight and I was like,
Oh, anybody could do this.
no, come on, man. I said, I was looking at it and I was like, I could do this. And so, and I think that maybe that kind of sparked the first really just get your ass off, get off your ass and write, and I think that that's maybe where it went, was like really these young adult simple stories are making it huge and I could do this. So maybe that was it. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I liked writing from a young age, but it didn't seem like something realistic. I think until we ended up in a place where self-publishing became a thing,
Yeah.
you could bypass
That
all
changed
of
the
that,
game.
all of that gatekeeping that was always a part of this industry. You
Right.
know,
No, I always had the delusional dream myself, but I always had that fear in me, like, I don't know if I could deal with the editors.
yeah, editors losing creative control, having to
Rejection,
like you
letters.
really like your books are a part of you, like you're
Right.
ripping out your own heart and smashing it into the keyboard, and then somebody else is gonna go, no, this is fucked up, take out half of this,
Right.
And like I'm just a brat like that.
You know,
I don't
and-
want to give up the control.
It's the same thing in the music industry and stuff like that, where you come in with something heartfelt and beautiful, and they're like, "This is garbage," but we can make it good. It's
Right,
like,
and we're gonna make it sound like every other thing that's already
right,
on the
yeah,
radio.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
It's
saying? So
mass-produced
like,
trash.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, like those are things that I found disheartening, and I think that from an early age, I looked at it as those are the parts of it that made me not want to do it.
Now, your first story that you've written, was that in school for an assignment?
For a story that I wrote, yeah, I'm sure that was in like high school or junior high.
Okay, so when was the first story you wrote for yourself that wasn't an assignment?
I actually published a book under a different pen name about 5 years ago. So I would say probably I started writing that probably a couple years before that. I wrote, I think, 3 or 4 books in that series. So I mean, yeah, 5-6 years ago.
Okay, well, traveling back to when you first fell in love with writing and thought maybe, but I don't know, what would you tell that younger self about writing?
I That's funny. I think that whenever somebody has ever asked me, you know, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself? And truly, like, if I had one piece of advice for the younger me, it would be to learn to tell people to fuck off a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, truly, like, that is it. Stop taking other people's opinions into consideration. Stop worrying about what other people think. Like, really, writing is a personal thing. Not everybody is ever going to like your story. It's just not going to happen, you know? So you need to write for you. You need to write because you have something to say. You need to write because somebody out there wants to hear what you have to say. It won't be everybody. There's always going to be a hater. There's always going to be somebody who complains about something that's in your book. But there's also somebody out there who needs to hear your story. Write for them.
The same advice you would give to new writers?
I think so. I mean, a new writer, if you're just starting out, I think that some of the important things to remember are, you know, your story has probably been told in some way. There's some element of your story that's been done, but you have a unique voice and you need to learn to use it. Find your tone, find your writing style, and use that to make your story unique. And then when you're done with it, beta readers is another thing that I think is big. You know, get opinions on your work and see how other writers would guide you, you know. But also, same thing. Don't take every little thing that they say to heart. You have to look at that as kind of a whole. If I have multiple people saying, hey, this is a better way to do this, then maybe listen to that advice and look at how that applies to the rest of your work. But I mean, I think those are the two most important things.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the opinions of many amateurs, because then you're right, I could like, all right, this is a recurring piece of advice that I'm catching from these people. Whereas a singular...
I think at least when you're starting out, that's important. Like as you keep writing, your tone develops more and more, and I think that's when you can narrow it down to a handful of beta readers in your genre. But to start, I think it's good to have a broad...
But I feel like a singular professional may just be kind of full of themselves or have a certain
with you there
like,
as well.
angle. That's why I'd rather
they
have
will sometimes
many.
try to change your work to their tone,
right.
to their writing style.
Like, write your own book, dude.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to be careful about taking advice from one person.
Right. Yeah, I'd rather get the crowd. I agree.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that advice means confidence, and usually it just from what I'm hearing standing over here, it seems to be more like the deadening inside that comes with age. You just stop caring because screw everybody else at a certain point.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, no, you gotta. It's scary. Don't get me wrong. The first time I put a piece out there for beta readers, and I put it out to a lot of beta readers, and I got a lot of feedback, and it's scary. There is no doubt about that. But you have to kind of be true to yourself and know, I like this, it's not going anywhere, or like this is coming from a lot of people, and I really need to take into consideration that maybe I'm wrong here,
Right.
And you really need to find a happy balance in there, as far as not losing your tone and your style of writing, while also taking their advice for what it is, But I mean, yeah, it's not like it wasn't scary. It's not like I had a huge amount of confidence and I was like, my writing is awesome. Nobody's going to find anything wrong with this, because that's never going to be the case.
Right.
Yeah, it's just about grow a pair.
That's what I feel
do
like.
it.
I feel like
You gotta bite the bullet.
Somebody's always going to find something, right? They're always going to find something wrong,
always,
even if it's not technically wrong. They're going to have a problem.
No, it's just
with
not going to
something.
match
That's part of why I do
their...
so much research, and even then I know it'll never be perfect.
Yeah, but it's not about research. A lot of times they're just like, this is a better way to word this. Or
Right.
you could
I don't
try
mind
this
that.
or try that. Or, like...
I have problems with wording sometimes, so I actually appreciate when somebody's like, this is a better way to word this. And
Right.
it's like, oh, thank God, I had no idea how to actually word that.
I get
I
you.
mean, for me, I have that problem a lot, so I understand that.
Is there a question I didn't ask, or something you'd like to say to the audience?
I mean... No, I don't like that question.
Have we covered this ground?
Buy her book.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't really, I can't think of anything else. The
What about
Cost
you,
of
Loki?
Justice is out now, and there's more coming soon. That's all I've got.
Yeah, no, go buy her book. It's really interesting. It's a neat, different take on the dystopian world and everything. So I dig it.
Well,
Good interview, guys.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
If you liked what we did today, of course, you can petition to have us review
same
your
to you.
book and maybe talk to us
Put
about
you in the hot seat.
maybe talk to us about putting you in the hot seat, and we can interview you. So we will see you next week, where we do a plotting episode, right?
Plotting, yep.
So We're going to do a plotting episode next week, and so make sure to check us out on Twitter at the Dark Stormy K1 or the Dark and Stormy Nights.vigvasirmedia.com. If you want your book reviewed, go to vigvasirmedia.com and submit.
Go to the book review submissions page.
That's what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else?
We're on YouTube.
Oh yeah, we're on YouTube now. Now we're catching up. It's we're putting up 2 episodes a week until we're all caught up with current day.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to find the link to buy The Cost of Justice, go to novadrake.vigvasirmedia.com.
And we'll see you next week. Thanks.